Hi, and welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation about Freemasonry. Tonight, we have with us worshipful brother Jarrod Dunham from District Number 10 in British Columbia.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our opinions and thoughts are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions, either here on YouTube or on our Facebook page. We'd also appreciate a thumbs up and especially any comments on our videos.
Welcome, Jarrod, to the Working Tools Podcast. We appreciate you making the time to come and talk to us. I know tonight we're going to talk about, how do you say it? How the tenets of Freemasonry made you a better businessman?
Yeah, well, just that sort of that spin on Freemasonry makes men better businessmen.
Excellent. All right. So, you've officially met Matt Appel, and we're happy to have you come and talk to us tonight about that topic. So what do you mean when you say that? Explain that. Go deeper.
Okay, so what started me going down this path was that old chestnut that we always say, that Freemasonry makes men better men, makes men better. Oh, see, and I can't even remember what it was. And I was thinking that one of the things that has happened to me since joining Freemasonry and also being a solopreneur is the fact that I think it's the tenets and the lessons that I've learned in Freemasonry I've been able to use to make myself a better businessman. For example, just going off the top, if you look at the structure of our lodges with various offices and stuff like that we have to go through, it's a great opportunity for people to learn the management side of a business in a very friendly and forgiving environment. Each office that we take on our way through the chairs teaches us something different that we can then extrapolate into our personal lives, like our business lives, whether we're entrepreneurs, whether we work in a large organization or a not-for-profit. Pretty much, everything that we do makes us better businessmen.
Right.
I don't know if I'm making much.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, because often when I'm talking to candidates as we're putting them through those 6 steps to membership, that I often describe the officers in a lodge as a business structure and use that as a comparison, where we have the president, the senior vice president, junior vice president, and so on, secretary, treasurer, and the chief cook and bottle washer, etc. Right? So yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And what are the things that stand out to you as having been most beneficial in your work?
For me personally, the one lesson that I've learned the most in Freemasonry is the lesson of self-improvement, that there's always something to learn. If you follow, one of the current trends in business culture right now is the 5-hour rule, where you taking 5 hours a week to learn something. It's promoted by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and stuff like that. And in our degrees, we're taught that one of the things we are supposed to do is go out and seek knowledge, not necessarily any hidden knowledge, but just to improve ourselves through learning, improving a craft of some sort. And these are skills and techniques that we of course can also then bring into our business lives. Because if you're to look, I'm at my office right now, and if you're to look at my bookshelf, I have a ton of business books that I've read over the past few years and stuff, that I've been able to take stuff out. But it's that search for knowledge that really is the spark that gets me going for business.
Interesting. Have you had any experiences, Matt, where the skills and whatnot of masonry have transferred into your work world?
I can't say that there's something that crops up to mind as a specific instance, but I do agree with Jarrod that the general principles of masonry of improvement and of dealing with people squarely, no matter who they are, whether they're Masons or not, and dealing with situations, seeing, overcoming various situations and having the following the cardinal virtues, temperance and fortitude and that sort of stuff to do what is right, to exercise those virtues, would definitely, I can see how that would make one stand out in the business world as not, I was about to say something mean about used car salesmen, but I won't do that because there's nothing wrong with used car salesmen. But as someone who deals with people fairly, you get a reputation. I mean, there's a lot of businesses out there that are small. My wife's an accountant, and all the accountants in this area know all the other accountants in this area, and you get a reputation as being, someone who deals with people fairly and does the right thing as far as they can, or someone who's a little, maybe we should avoid that guy. And it's definitely, I can see how that would apply in one's business life.
Yeah, and I can see how, having gone through the chairs, the planning skills required, the leadership skills required, and how the lessons learned in obtaining those skills and working those skills in lodge can improve one's work environment quite easily, and prepare you. It's kind of like if you've gone through the chairs in lodge, you've gone through most of the stations, you've learned most of the duties, and those duties prepared you to be the worshipful master of the lodge. And it's no different if you apply learned skills to your business, that it will have a definite positive effect. And the one thing that I've learned over the years, or observed over the years, better said observed, is that when one deals with a Freemason who's in business, they can rest assured generally that they are going to be treated fairly and given proper service for proper fees, right? And can always trust that you're going to get a fair shake and be taken care of properly. And that's why a lot of brothers will deal with a lot of other brothers in business. But I can see exactly where you're saying of the skills and how they apply. Do you have any further insight on this?
Well, going further on what you said about having gone through the chairs, and once you've been worshipful master, one of the first things you learn is how to deal with the various personalities in an organization, especially the ones that are reluctant for change because they've always done it a certain way.
No, there's never any of those.
but that's a very important skill that you need in the business world, is dealing with different personalities and listening to their concerns and understanding that they're not reluctant to change. They're just comfortable in the way they've always done things, and you have to show them the benefits of doing things differently. For me personally, Stephen, you may not believe this, but I'm a bit of an introvert.
No.
So one of the things that Freemasonry has really helped me with was going out and networking with people, going out to a lodge meeting, introducing myself to people I don't really know, but I know that they're going to at least welcome me because we're Freemasons. And it helps me get over my shyness, so that when I actually have to go to an actual business meeting or a business, what's the word I'm looking for, event, that
Right.
I don't feel as uncomfortable going up to strangers and introducing myself and starting a conversation.
Right, because you've had that experience that you've learned several times how to do that through your experience in lodge.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of instances of things that were things you sort of picked up along the way, if you will, that in going through the chairs or going to meetings you've picked up. Has All right, so I'll get on my soapbox here for a second. I feel like we talk about making good men better, as you mentioned earlier, but it doesn't feel like there's ever a disciplined program to do that. And so I was sort of curious, is there in the lodges that you've been to or something, was there a program or a Masonic education piece or something along those lines that particularly spoke to you, or was that just a sort of a general thing you picked up along the way?
For me, it was a general thing I picked up along the way. When I joined Freemasonry way back in the Dark Ages, education wasn't something you did in lodge. It was something you got from one of the past masters who told you how they did things. So for me, the big thing was finally deciding to go through the chairs and going through the chairs and learning the different roles that I had to take on each year as I took on a different office in the lodge. As I said, I'm an introvert. So the hardest one for me was being junior warden and having to organize all of our festive boards and everything afterwards. I'm not a social person by nature.
He did a fine job. He did.
So for me, other than listening and participating in the degrees, of course, and what the lectures and stuff, just going to lodge and sitting in there and seeing how things work and stuff was really eye-opening for me to see how organizations that want to be together can actually work.
Right. Yeah.
The one thing about a lodge is that you don't have people who are hoping that you fail in your office simply because they want your office. They know that eventually they will get a chance to do it, and it's better for them to support you as you're in your year of doing whatever it is office that you're sitting in, than it is to sort of undermine you behind your back and stuff so that you fail and then they eventually get the office.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that expressed before. Yeah, as people, when you're working in lodge, that in your in your labors in the chairs and stuff, it's a place where everyone wants you to succeed, where everyone thinks better of you and wants you to succeed, as opposed to, like you were saying, angling for a better position,
Right.
or a better job or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. It's. I often wonder because I haven't traveled globally as much as I have locally, right? But yes, I have traveled globally, but not on a consistent basis to find out. In the States, I understand that there's a lot of fellows who are known speakers, and they're often hired to come and do or to speak at lodges and educate or whatever they are proficient at, right? And I often understand that some of those guys get quite competitive in the because it's like a lecture circuit, right, kind of thing, and they get a bit competitive out there, which I found very interesting because I've never experienced that here. We may have somebody come and talk, but they're never being compensated for it, right? Or they've never been, you know, how do they say? Had their way paid and asked them to come travel far and wide to come and talk to us and offer to take care of their travel expenses and things like that. So because here we just do it because we love to do it, right? And more often than not, the guys who are out everywhere just they love to hear the sound of their own voice, right? And thankfully, a lot of them have a lot of experience and wisdom to share.
And
I'm
some of
very
them start
thankful.
podcasts.
Yeah, and some of them start podcasts, right? But there's not a lot. There's not very many guys in our podcast that have been around long enough to have that status yet, right? So I find this topic interesting because I've never, even though I've explained it and used business as an example in many candidate meetings, I've never really thought too much about how the tenets and principles of our organization, groom a businessman, right? So it's an interesting way to think about it for sure.
So I'm sorry, Jarrod, what lodge are you in up in BC there?
Currently, I'm a member of Penticton Lodge number 147.
And where's that?
In Penticton.
Penticton. Oh, well, there you go.
Sorry, in Penticton.
Good place for it. So do your, and Steve, this is you too, do you guys as lodges have a any kind of a formal system for training people, or do you just sort of expected to pick up along the way what it is the junior warden does or the senior warden does?
Well, that's different for each lodge. I'll let Jarrod speak for his.
I'm not the best person to speak for Penticton 147, as I just joined them in the fall. Unfortunately, I was the last master of Headley number 43 that I closed down, that I had joined a few years ago.
Was that in Headley?
That originally, yes, but by way of Karamius and then Peachland. So we had a few lodge halls. But in Headley, we had what it basically was that upon your election to an office, it was the person who was sitting in that office who basically trained you up before you had your first meeting in that chair.
And see, in our lodge, we have what we call a lodge officer's coach. And that's a past master usually who's quite active and still around lots and doesn't mind offering his time to coach them along. And so right from the stewards, they learn about the proper decorum and the proper way to move in a lodge and so on. And when you happen to be one of the few past masters left sticking around, they usually throw it on your shoulders, right? And you end up doing it for years. But the good thing is consistency. It's kind of like having our candidates ritual coaches, right? It's the same guys year after year, so they get better at doing what they're doing, right? And so yeah.
Right. From my experience, I've always found that just showing up at lodge for the most part and paying attention, and as you progress through the chairs, you learn a lot just by watching how everyone else in the lodge does things. It's always been a bane of personal annoyance of mine when people get pushed through the chairs too quickly when they skip chairs. Yeah. So because you need that time to sitting on the sidelines and watching how things work.
Yeah, and that's another thing is when you join the chairs, we always have a lodge officers practice when we after every installation and before, so that they're all tuned up for the opening and closings and so on, and then you work with them throughout the year to improve on whatever else needs work. Right.
Our lodge, we had every couple of years we try and start these. They call them podium books, where it's got a binder that has all the officers' responsibilities, and this is how we did the table lodge last year, and et cetera, et cetera. And it lasts for like a year, maybe 2 years, and then someone loses theirs, and then we didn't hand it down, and they end up sitting in storage somewhere. And then it was a couple of years later, someone goes, "We should have podium books," and we all start up again. But unfortunately, we don't have a good, I know what the word is, apprenticeship program, I guess, for handing down that knowledge from one guy to the next. Even if the next guy says, "I don't want to do that," at least he knows what he's not doing.
Yeah, we have them, and they're called the living document for the junior warden and senior warden and so on. And we're supposed to pass them down. It's been flowing now 3 years, so not so bad. Hang on.
Well, no. At 147, we call them the bylaws. Because every officer's duty is written into our bylaws, and it's listed out when you take over the chair. This is what you will be doing over the next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have suggested ones. The Grand Lodge has the Lodge Officer's Handbook, they call it, that has suggested duties, but they're not, every lodge is a little different, and every lodge does theirs their own way. So it's
right.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When everybody does it all different, that consistency goes away, right? And that's one of the things that actually going to try and do if we ever get back to regular meetings as district education officers, to try and get that consistency of practice for certain things in lodges, like the 6-step program and so on,
right?
And offer the guidance and assistance to get these programs being up and consistent. But I think that those programs also take a big role in preparing guys for these roles as they're going through the lodge officers things. And when you're getting all those years of experience and guidance and suggestions on how to conduct yourself in, for example, when you're doing a lecture, and how to conduct yourself walking around the room, it's no different than when you're going into a board meeting and doing a presentation, or a sales meeting and doing a presentation, or some training on something, right? You conduct yourself in the same way, and so on. I love the crossover. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
And you got. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, please.
You got any other life experiences that you have to contribute to the topic?
For me, I guess another one of the things is the ritual work. Learning to memorize something so that you can be able to spit out the information that someone's asked for in a reasonably competent manner. I mean, when you go through school, I know they say you're not supposed to learn things by rote, but we don't really learn how to remember facts, especially in this digital age. We don't learn how to remember facts so that we can, come across as a competent, oh yes, I know why that is that, and and why you need to do things a certain way. But I know that people rail against memory work in Freemasonry, but it sharpens your mind, and it makes you a better man.
Oh, for sure. And sharpening the mind, keeping the mind sharp, keeping it challenged. I talked to a couple of my mentors in ritual work about, they've been doing it for so long, right? And, why don't they give up some of the pieces that they do, right? And this is because it keeps my mind sharp, right?
Right.
It's the one thing that I've still got that, that challenges my mind, right? I don't work anymore, so I don't have to worry about anything that way, and all the other stresses in life. He says, it's a challenge to do memory work. So, it keeps me sharp, right?
Right.
So you definitely can see some spin-off benefits there.
I will say one of the things that we try to inculcate at the district level amongst all the lodges is, even though lodges have, the lines a lot of times end up being pretty progressive, but, below junior deacon, there seems to be, people mill about, if you're the steward doesn't mean you're necessarily be, whatever next year, the chaplain or the marshal or whatever. But once you hit junior deacon, you're pretty much probably on the train to continuing up to worshipful master. So we try to inculcate into the new masters that the guy you pick for junior deacon is your responsibility, that you got him into this mess, and it is your job to sort of foster him through the line. And that's another thing that one hears about in the business world. You always hear people being mentors and that sort of stuff, and it's an important aspect both of as the learner and as the leader to mentor these people and make sure they're ready for the next step and they're ready for their next challenge.
For sure.
Definitely.
Which I guess if you're a solopreneur, did you say?
Yeah.
Maybe that's less of an issue, but.
Well, but still, I mean, I work with other, I'm a bookkeeper by trade, and I've got other bookkeepers. There's about 4 or 5 of us on the road on the same street, here in downtown Benticton. So, and we constantly go back and forth with, how to do things and stuff and helping each other. And so, I mean, it still builds a community, and that's what you learn in Freemasonry, is that, it's not about, oh, I've got to get that client before they get that client, so that, it's about there's enough for all of us. And when we all succeed, we will all do better.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And the being supportive instead of feared or challenged is a big difference as well.
Right. So, yeah. And you get that in Freemasonry. It is a very supportive environment to be in.
Yes.
You could make the most grievous mistake in a lodge, and someone will come up and you say, "Hey, great job. Next time you might want to," but you're never called out for it, or you shouldn't.
Right. Yeah. You're generally offered a way to improve it, or at least good job, man.
Yeah.
A little show of support. Mostly because most of them don't want to do the job themselves, and they're happier if you're doing it, right?
Well, and quite a few of them remember the day that they had to do it for the first time, and remember they did it just as bad.
Yeah, right. It's like everybody remembers those days, right? Where that really extra long pause was in that piece of ritual work. I swear that pause was in there before a whole bunch of commas. I remember, right?
I don't know. We have at least 3 or 4 past masters who will shout out the wrong answer for you when that happens.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's always a nice plus when the sidelines are helping, right?
Right.
And there's more than one of them. I went to a lodge once where let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's stick with the positive aspect.
Well, or actually, if you want to stick with the past master sitting on the sidelines, one of the things, and that's especially useful in business, is when you're sitting in the East as master, you quickly learn how to stand up for yourself, and to quiet down those voices that are giving the wrong information, to say, no, this is the way to do it, and this is how we're going to do it. And once again, that's something you learn to use in business, is that, being able to stand up and say, no, I know I'm right, and I will prove it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. True that.
Yeah. True that. A lot of times when you say the following statement, you get a lot of pushback, but lodges are businesses. They're a small business, some of them have buildings to run and some don't, but you've got personnel to manage, you've got a budget, you've got revenue, you've got expenses.
Exactly.
It's not, the point of it isn't to be a business, but it is, the business end supports the labors of masonry, and it is what it is. It's a business.
Yeah. It's a not-for-profit.
Yep, exactly. I interviewed a guy once who was he was in I want to say the Elks, but he said he went up the line in the Elks Club, and he was ready for the meetings, and he was ready for the that part of the experience of being in charge of the Elks Lodge, but he wasn't ready to be the general manager of a bar, which is kind of one of the aspects, because they ran a small restaurant out of their lodge and that sort of thing. It's definitely, these lodges either are businesses of a sort. It's like you said, it's a non-for-profit business.
Yeah.
If you can't pay your rent, or you can't keep your building up.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and if you're not getting enough customers through the door, and in our case, which is candidates, and I know it's bad to call candidates customers, but it's it's the same concept.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, they are. Let's face it. I'm getting in lots of trouble here. You're marketing to people with what it is you do in the community and how you're seeing the community. And you get people to come in through the door. You get them interested. You get them to come in through the door and petition the lodge and join. And then you're in the business, if you will, of making those good men better. And how well you do that, and how well you set your expectations of how well you're going to do that, it keeps them there, or they vote with their feet. They leave.
Well, and how well you prepare those men to be better men also is how well you promote your business.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And how well the team works together, right? Because I can see that the principles, the philosophy, the actions, the processes, how that all plays. And then you go to a lodge where they're just a lodge of past masters from everywhere else that all come to this lodge to hang out, chew the fat, and have a social aspect to their life, right? They have
Right.
no desire to do extra work. They have no mentorship program. They have none of that stuff, right? So, that's not going to be, those skills and lessons won't be learned in the same fashion in that lodge or to members of that lodge, right? So
I've often
for
said
the
that
most part, most lodges have a progression of lodges or progression of line officers and that have not been there before, and they need to learn this stuff. So I can see how in most lodges this works, right?
Right.
But I just wanted to note that there's some fun lodges out there where guys, they're all from somewhere else. They all just belong to that lodge, so they got another lodge meeting to go to where they can have a good social time, no responsibilities. The guy who likes to cook, cooks. The guys who don't, and they never have any real work to do there because, the closest thing they get to doing work is an installation, and that's usually a quick night because they're all past masters, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but as we're coming down to our time frame in this, I want to make sure that to thank you again, Jarrod. We really appreciate you making time to come on to our podcast and share your thoughts and experiences with us. And we're happy to have you here. Thanks.
Thank you for having me. I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah, thank you, Jarrod.